Welcome to the Rise Up King show. We are back with our very special guest and my lovely, amazing wife, Jessica Lewis. We had some great feedback from our last conversation and wanted to have you back on again. My goal is to continue to have you on so we can talk about marriage, sex, intimacy, fun, all the great topics, because if you can have an incredible marriage, it could be heaven on earth.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back and talk about some fun stuff.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about sex and how to have more sex in your marriage. And so for this conversation, I want to start out with what's required. Like, what does it look like? I believe we all at our core want to have more sex, especially if it's fun and it's great sex, right? At a certain point, I think marriage can get it can get stale. The sex life can get stale. The marriage bed can be not as fun. And so we want to keep it spicy and fun and passionate. And so that's our vision as we work with couples, is we love to see a lot more passion, a lot more fun, a lot more sex, because it truly, the health benefits of sex are fantastic.
Yeah, no, remember the doctor that really said that to you? Like prostate cancer?
I know. Yeah.
It diminishes the more that happens.
It's real, and you get a good release of some good hormones. You feel great after. Yeah. It's healthy for you. So I
told my ladies about that the other day.
What?
I asked him, I was like, how are you going to move towards your husband? And I was like, I did not feel like having sex. And I was I set up my mood before. I was like, I was grumpy, I was frustrated, it was early in the morning, I was tired, whatever. Afterwards, I feel loving and
it's the hormones. No,
it's connected. It was like literally a 180-degree shift.
What do you think would lead to more sex? What is something that couples can do to have more sex and to have better sex?
I think if I'm speaking to the ladies, and then I guess you can speak to the men on this topic. But The first thing that came to mind is our relationship with our naked bodies, right? So many women. Why'd you do that?
I'm listening.
You started to move your head. You're thinking something.
No.
Okay. So many ladies are not comfortable with their naked bodies. Like I remember one of the first times I tried to wear lingerie for Skylar, and I walked out and like my shoulders were all hunched over, and I slowly entered the room, and I was just so embarrassed. Like I didn't have a healthy relationship with my body at that time. And as that relationship grew, now I can walk and I can strut and I can, move around the room or do whatever the case may be. And it's actually fun. But I believe how you've talked to me and how you speak about my body in all stages, because women have changes that you guys don't have. We have children, we have hormones, we have just things that are more challenging oftentimes than men. And so how you've loved my body and spoke about my body, but then also how I've received that has dramatically impacted my desire to want to be intimate with you and have sex.
That's great. Yeah, no, I remember many conversations, right, where what's the statistic on women just feeling shameful about their body?
Brene Brown says 99% of women have some form of body shame.
Yeah, some form of body shame. So I think it's the man's job is to continue to support and to love on you and to share the positive things about your body, right? Yeah. So I love encouraging you and sharing what I love about your body and speaking it out, right? And acknowledging it and affirming you.
Yeah.
So I think that's made a big difference in
and I had to receive it, right? Because I think you've always said that to me, but I didn't even believe it enough. And I've had to, I just told my sister-in-law the other day, cellulite on my legs, and I'm like, I'm getting old. It's just I'm 37 years old. I don't have the body of a 17-year-old. It's just different. So I've had to accept different things, even though I work out, even though I eat clean, even though this is the body that God gave me, and I can either not like it or I can enjoy it and enjoy it with you if I'm not being critical of myself.
So good. What would you say is the second thing?
I think it's really important to understand the difference between women needing emotional intimacy sometimes before they need sexual intimacy, and that men don't need, sexual intimacy leads to emotional intimacy. It's for women tend to, not always, but women tend to want emotional intimacy first, like connection and talking and how was your day and what's going on and just the conversation. And then they feel ready to have sexual intimacy. When men are just ready to go, they're like, okay, you have 5 minutes. All right, let's do this right now, right? It's just a completely different conversation. So just being aware of that, because sometimes I talk to women and they're stuck in, well, I need my husband to meet this need first. And until he meets my emotional need, then I won't show up for his sexual need. But like if you're waiting on him, like you're missing out on opportunities to meet his needs because that's not a need of his. So if you're just in it for like, what can I get out of the relationship, or you're just focused on you, that might be something that you would say. You might say, well, I need him to meet my emotional need first, and then I'm willing to have sex. But what if you could be fluid in that, right? Like what if you could sometimes just go for it right away without emotional intimacy? Because I guarantee after, or I don't know, you tell me, like, do you feel like emotionally
no, it's a cycle, right? When we have sex, I feel more emotionally connected to you. That's just how it works. It's kind of this, it's this beautiful cycle that God made, but I think each couple waits for the other to move. And that's where the challenge is. That's where the struggle comes in is, right, I could wait for you to move on me sexually, right? And then you're waiting for me to be more emotionally connected, and it's just this gridlock that happens. And so I think it takes both. I think it takes men, for the men that are listening to this podcast, it takes you guys to really step in and understand your wife needs emotional intimacy. I heard from a therapist that does some of our events, and he said emotional intimacy precedes sexual intimacy. It can, and it could be very powerful that way. So men need to start showing up in a way where, hey, love on your wife, open up your heart, be vulnerable, share something that's honest and vulnerable. And we just had a marriage retreat, right, which was fantastic, and we got pretty vulnerable, and a lot of the couples got very vulnerable there, and that vulnerability created really intense emotional intimacy and sexual intimacy because of that vulnerability. There could be some battles, right? There could be some things that are said that could be hurtful, but at the end of the day, when both hearts are open, that's where like true passion can really start. It can take over long term. Of course, you can have short-term passion, right? When you get hot and it's just intense passion. But the long-term game, the long-term plan is, hey, how do we bring a passion forward for the rest of our marriage? And for guys, we need to continue to step up and be vulnerable and be open and be transparent and share things that we normally wouldn't share. And so that's been the journey for me, because that was very challenging to be vulnerable and to be real. I would rather keep it surfacey, so I didn't have to go there. However, what my wife wants, she wants to feel my heart. She wants to know my heart, and so that's been my journey.
I think another thing that's helped us have more intimacy and more sex is that we're committed to doing it. I mean, for so long.
Doing what? I'm just kidding.
For so long, we tracked our sex life. Like, it matters to us that we have sex X number of times a week. Like, that's really important. And so, and it's not a feeling thing. Even when we don't feel like doing it, we know the connection that it brings between the two of us. So we let that drive us versus what we're feeling in this moment. Because if we waited till we felt good, I mean, it would just be so much more challenging to do it, right? Until we felt like doing it. If we're like, okay, it's the perfect time when we're gonna, like, we just have to step in and some women are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you would track that, right? I don't want to track that. That puts pressure on me. But it puts a positive pressure on me that I know that connection is so important that I'm willing to do it. And then I get in the mood once we're doing everything, right?
Oh yeah, no, I think that, I started tracking us having sex, right? 2014 it was, right? Intimacy. I tracked intimacy because I wanted to know how well was I doing as a husband, investing and filling up your cup to the point that your cup was so full, we would be intimate. So that was a good measure of me, of how close I was and how good of a job I was doing as a man, as a husband in the relationship. Was I bringing it to the point where, we were having sex and being intimate? And so that was a journey that I've tracked that for many, many years. And then you found out, which was kind of funny. And then I
started looking at his spreadsheet. I'm like, no, you missed this one and you missed this one. But it helped me because like that's just a simple step in me being committed to like trying to be fun and trying to be flirty and trying to just keep fun in our relationship and choosing you over choosing the kids or choosing you over like work and business. Like it was an indication that I'm choosing you, that I'm leaning into you and your needs.
So good. Yeah, so that last point, right? Just being committed. I mean, you can track, you can do whatever you want, but show a commitment level to, hey, we're gonna make sex happen, right? And you can do it in a way where there's not a ton of pressure. You can have fun with it, and maybe it's not a mutual agreement. Maybe you're just working on it yourself and paying attention.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that part of it. It reminded me I'm an achiever, so I'm gonna win. So I'm gonna.
Yes, you are an achiever. That's awesome.
Right?
Give Jessica
so
a goal.
It was a game, right? And I'm gonna win the game, and the win is that we're connected and in that way, right?
So good.
Versus looking at it as pressure.
Yep.
So
love it. Well, that was just a couple nuggets. We're gonna have many more topics and conversations on this. I think it's such an important thing.
Can I just have one more?
One more. Let's do it. What is it?
Yep. Just talking about warming each other up, because we've talked recently about like women need more warm up, right? But when a woman doesn't take care of herself during the day, right? And she has 5 million things on her to-do list, and she's at the school volunteering, and she's taking kids to sports, and she's just always constantly outflowing to everybody else, but not filling her cup. I'm not warm for anything. I'm freaking exhausted. Like, I don't want to connect with you emotionally even. Like, I'm worn out. So I have to have boundaries in my schedule and things in place so that I can be full enough to even want to be intimate to you, especially with people that have children.
So self-care, right?
Self-care for me, but then you knowing that at the exact same time, even if I'm taking care of myself, I need more warm-up than you do, right? Like, and I will want to be intimate with you and have sex with you if you're investing in flirting with me also and warming me up to the idea, not just, hey, let's go have sex.
That's great. And it may not be black and white on how that happens, right? You may have to get kind of creative with what the warm-up could look like.
That'd be a great follow-up to this. So if you've gotten this far in the video, I think you should like text your spouse if they're not sitting right here next to you, or watch the video with them. And maybe you have that conversation. Like, how can we prime ourselves? Like, how can we be warmed up to this fact? Like, do you need more emotional intimacy? Maybe you can discuss the points that we talked about and see where you're at with that stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of couples, they avoid the topic of sex, right? They'll do sex, but they won't talk about it. So I think bringing the topic up. Yeah, do sex. We talked about Hey, we did it.
Yeah.
So we are doing. So yeah, actually go have a conversation. Hey, what would it take to improve our sex life? Hey, I like our sex life, but what would it take to get it to another level? Is a great conversation to have. And so we want to bring up these topics. And so what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, if you like this video, right, like it, share it, get the content out there. We want to just support couples on really improving. And if you like this podcast, right, share the podcast. But we want to get more couples having more sex, having more passion, having more fun, and it starts with becoming aware and then having great conversations.
I love it.
Thank you again. Love you, baby.
Love you.